also work for the State of Colorado Small Business Development Centers, and my primary role is to help companies sell, market, and secure state, federal, and Fortune level contracts. And so today, we're joined by 3 NASA principal technologists who will discuss the agency's technology needs, priorities, and challenges in their particular disciplines. And we will change the format slightly. Each technologist will come up, have 10 minutes to discuss their role, their needs, and then they will have 5 minutes to answer questions, and then we will move to the next individual. At the end of that, all 3 panelists will be up here for more Q&A. So with that said, I would first like to introduce Dr. Stephen Horan, with NASA, who is a NASA Principal Technologist within the Avionics, Radio Frequency Communications, and Electronic Sensors Division. And let's give him a hand as he comes to the stage. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, is the, yeah, it's on, I can hear it. All right. First, starting off, what do we mean by avionics? This is one of those areas where people have different definitions depending on context. And so really, when we talk about it from our perspective, it's what are the sensors and instruments, signal processing, everything to give a space entity, such as a launch vehicle, spacecraft, or a human, situational awareness and state of health status. So we're not necessarily doing science sensors, it's more health and welfare monitoring or situational monitoring, things of that nature. The kinds of things that are in my domain really come down to individual sensing devices for subsystems, flight computers, and communications devices. We don't typically include the big power systems. So we're not here making big solar panels or some kind of a major power system. The one exception we do have are these things called, point of load converters. And those are the little things that might take a 25-volt bus and bring it down to 5 volts or 3 volts for the devices. That's part of our area. In guidance, navigation, and control, we don't worry about things like thrusters or reaction wheels, and we don't do standards development. So there is a lot of standards work done here. That's not part of our charter. That's with the Office of the Chief Engineer. So where are the places we need help? We need to be able to do things from low Earth orbit to the end of the solar system, not a small domain. But the problem here is that each of those areas has their own challenges. The avionics you would use in low Earth orbit might not necessarily be the same thing you would use, say, in a far solar system like Europa or going to visit Pluto or something like that. There's different things we need to worry about. So it's not a one-size-fits-all. Also, as has been mentioned, we have an emphasis the next few years on going to the moon. So that's going to be a primary area we'll be looking at. Yes, we've gone to the moon once 50 years ago. I doubt seriously anybody would want to take the Apollo flight computer and try and use that today. Okay, and the same way in some of the other subsystems. Just because we were able to do it 50 years ago doesn't mean you would do it today, and it doesn't mean that today's technology is ready to do it. So ultimately, it means we need to have solutions tailored for the relevant environment, temperature, radiation, things like that. And on the moon, we are talking now about doing things a little differently. For Apollo, we only had to stay alive for a couple days. The challenge here is, can we stay alive for up to a year? Something like that. The reason that becomes interesting is because the moon gets very, very cold at night and very, very hot in the day. And what you might do at night might make it so you boil over during the daytime. So there's a lot of systems thinking has to go in there. So what are we looking to do? Have approaches that can enhance our existing capabilities with innovative signal processing and communications. The reason we're pushing on that is we want to pack more power into the device. We want to have as many devices be smart, things like that, and exploit advantages that the new things that you buy commercially. There are a lot of things that you can get at Best Buy that you can't get ready for space. So how can we make something that's smart like you would find at Best Buy and make it ready for space? We also want to look at new advances in places like photonic circuitry to give us higher speeds, lower power, things like that. So those are areas that are going to be very important over the next few years. So, bottom line up front, except I put the slides in backwards. This should have been at the first one. Avionics is really a cross-disciplinary activity with many areas of interest. We are like that old BASF commercial. We don't make the thing, we make it better. So a lot of the things that are in avionics really are cross-discipline, and they are really there to make things work better. There's a lot of places we can learn. The current technologies for Internet of Things and smart systems, we can benefit from that. So those are all kinds of things to look at. So what I have on the next couple slides are examples from the FY18. Warning, this is not necessarily what's in the FY19. But the reason I'm showing this is I want people to recognize that in the SBIR calls, not everything's going to be labeled avionics. Sometimes it's going to be buried in other places. All right, so for instance here with power and energy, there are parts in there for those point-of-load commercials, devices, things like that. Fault management technologies, they quite often require various kinds of avionics sensors. Robotic systems, there's lots of avionics for supporting robotics. Common nav, there are places over there. Integrated health management, there are a lot of avionics kinds of sensors built into there. Humans, this is one I found interesting. Most of the time people think of accelerometers for avionics. Well, here they want to have crew wearing the accelerometers. So there are places that people are working at in the crew systems world where they really want to have avionics. Basically, I don't want to say you're instrumenting the crew, but that's what it comes down to. Sensors and detectors. There's lots of things in there that have crossover with avionics. So those are all kinds of places to look. And again, in these various other places. And oh, by the way, there are some real avionics ones. But the thing is that a lot of the technologies that are used have homes in other places other than in a topic area called avionics. And that's the thing you need to be really keyed into, is that your company might actually have something that you could do that could be applied in another area. And so I think my time is just about up. Oh, I got a couple minutes. Well, in any case, any Q&A, any questions? Yes, sir.
So across all the agencies, there seems to be a focus on higher performance processing with the lower squat.
Yeah.
So there's this trend, the high performance spaceflight computing and other initiatives to really push the processing side. But there doesn't seem to be anything tracking, and you mentioned it in the processing side, trying to innovate memory, other than making it more rad hard, but you're throwing more processing, and you got sensors generating lots more data, and it just seems like there's a storage gap that's growing between the processing and the sensors and the kind of storage that's available.
Yeah, and we are aware of that. And
that was my question. Is that something you're observing as well?
Yeah, we are very aware of that. In fact, one of the things we're hoping to do as a companion to the high performance spaceflight computing project is actually start a companion memory project to go along with that. And it's something we're working with the Air Force on, just like we did with the high performance spaceflight computing to lay out the architecture needs for the computing side. We're also doing the same thing for the memory side. We realize that the computing environment is not just a chip, it's a whole ecology that's got to work together, and you've got to have all the pieces, parts playing nicely together. And obviously, in a software-defined world, if you don't have memory that is suitable for a high-end processor, you've wasted a lot of time and money. So we expect there will be things starting to come out this fiscal year.
So I just wanted to make a comment on the first slide. You mentioned space, but also, avionics also includes aeronautics.
Right.
And there's a couple of subtopics we do have at least for last year in that area.
Yeah. Since I'm in the Space Technology Mission Directorate, we don't push as much aero, but there are certainly certain technologies that will work just as well for aero as for spacecraft, and in one of the areas, from some of the people I've been talking with, in the aero world, there is a concern now on some of the modern avionics in aircraft, especially ones that do frequent over-the-pole flights. We're in solar minimum right now, but in 5 years we'll be back at solar maximum. There are some people starting to get worried if the avionics hardware that is used in aircraft will actually be rad-hardened enough, since things are more software defined in the aircraft. So that's where perhaps in the aeronautics world there could be some coupling with the space side, and some of the techniques we've developed for space might actually be very applicable to some of the flight avionics in the aircraft world. But yes, we are very well aware that there is an airplane side, and certainly I look for twofers, things that will work well in both areas. Okay, I think Michelle, you're up.
Thank you, Doctor. Now I would like to...
Obviously, those evaluations that were provided were in an advisory nature to the companies. Beginning with our last round of Phase 2 SBIRs and STTRs, and that is the 2017 program year, we actually applied scoring to those evaluations. On the technical side, which is still the primary purpose and focus of the evaluations, a proposal could receive up to 95 points. And for the commercial section, which is Section 7 of your Phase 2 proposals, you could receive a maximum of 5 points. So what I'm going to do is just elaborate and walk you through how that evaluation team looks at your Section 7 on the proposals, and some ancillary data that is also looked at to inform the evaluation. It's not a deciding factor in the evaluation, but it informs the evaluation of what is contained within the body of your proposal. So at the Jet Propulsion Laboratory, each year we convene a group of outside experts to sit and read every single Phase 2 proposal that comes into NASA. I personally get to see every single Phase 2 proposal that comes through NASA for both SBIR and STTR, with a focus on Section 7, which is the commercialization section. We do not evaluate, comment, or provide input on the technical section of the proposal, but purely on the commercial potential as expressed in Section 7 of the Phase 2 proposal. That group of individuals, and we are allowed by federal law to bring in outside individuals to review, comment, and evaluate proposals. This group of individuals is a group of primarily retired aerospace executives from small businesses, individuals who work in the venture capital industry, individuals who worked in corporate mergers and acquisitions, et cetera. They're very, very familiar with what is entailed to take technology from a concept to an application. So with that, what is commercialization? Well, this is exactly how we define it in the content of our solicitation. Okay, there's three tranches, if you would like, on the definition for commercialization that we have within the NASA solicitation. One, transition of technology into products and services for NASA mission programs. Actual tangible hardware or software that goes into a program that is missionized, ends up going somewhere, be it a rover on Mars or something up into the body of the International Space Station. Two, other government agencies, our friends in the Air Force, Army, Navy, DARPA, National Institutes of Health, et cetera, all the other agencies that are out there that have technology needs. You're selling your product into them. And three, non-government markets, the commercial space, be it the automotive industry, the aviation industry, whatever the case may be. The law requires our program to consider commercial potential in making selections. That's why we do the evaluations. And now the Small Business Administration has set a goal for the program to increase private sector commercialization. Well, overall commercialization, okay? So that's really why we put the teeth into program year 2017 to provide the points in the content of the evaluation. So why commercialization? Why does commercialization fit in? Well, it typically takes 3 to 7 years for a new technology effort to make into a NASA flight mission. And SBIR funding, phase 1, $125,000, phase 2, $750,000. If you want to mitigate a bit more risk and mature the technology, you can get a phase 2 extended. That's, it's a fair amount of money for an individual to take and work in a company to invest in mitigating risk and advancing the technology. But when you look at going from a TRL level 7 up to an 8 and 9 for flight hardware, the slope of the curve for the cost is extreme. So SBIR is not going to get you there. So the important thing that I want to drive home, and I'm not going to read every single thing here on the slide, the important thing I want to drive home is that the evaluation of your commercialization plan as presented within the body of the proposal is NASA's way of attempting to gauge your longevity as a business enterprise. Because as I say, it takes 3 to 7 years. We want to make sure that you're still going to be around, or we want to have some level of confidence that you're still going to be around 7 years from now when we'd like to take that hardware and integrate it into a flight mission. So your input into Part 7 on your Phase 2 proposal gives us greater confidence in your viability as a company going forward, that you'll still be there for us 7 years from now, if that's the path that we're going to take to get that technology, that system into a flight mission. Now, as I said on the previous slide, commercialization can be achieved a number of ways. Post-Phase 2 funding for NASA SBIR STTR program, funding from a NASA program that infuses the technology, post-Phase 2 funding from another federal agency, post-Phase 2 funding from a commercial enterprise in the form of sales or additional research and development, and straight-out commercial sales. So here's the Phase 1 evaluation criteria for your Phase 1 proposals. This is straight out of the solicitation. I just cut and pasted it. This is the exact language as it appears. We're looking for something that gives a primary consideration to the scientific and technical merit and feasibility of the proposal and its benefit to NASA's interests. Each proposal will be evaluated based on these factors: scientific, technical merit, feasibility, experience, qualifications of facilities, effectiveness of the proposed work plan, commercial potential and feasibility, and price reasonableness of the content of the proposal for the work that you're doing. Remember, this is the Phase 1, the Phase 1 proposal. Commercial review, all acceptable Phase 2 SBIR and STTR proposals are reviewed by a committee. As I mentioned previously, the purpose of the review is twofold: provide proposing company with an assessment of their commercial plan, give advice. When our evaluators write the advice, we coach them to write it at a level that they're actually providing advice to the CEO of the company. It's the ability to coach your company as to, gee, you might have thought about this instead of doing that. You might have dove a little further into this issue within the body of the Section 7 versus that. So it's a coaching opportunity. It provides NASA with an assessment of the ability of the proposing company to commercialize their technology, and it's that, are you going to be a sustainable provider? Are you going to be around 7 years from now? Because you, the small business community, are an important part of NASA's industrial base. You know, the Department of Defense spends a lot of resources to develop and sustain an industrial base. NASA is just starting down that pathway. So as I mentioned earlier, the results of the commercial review, it's worth 5%, 5 points in the evaluation of your phase 2 proposal. So the commercial criteria, the ability of the company to commercialize their technology is based on several factors. Understanding of the internal and external marketplace. Market segmentation. So let me tell you a little side story on this. We see a lot of these proposals. Let's say, as a hypothetical example, it's a company proposing a LiDAR for the entry, descent, and landing technologies. So here you are, you've done a great technical review, and you've been able to prove to the technical community at NASA that you're able to reduce weight and add additional power, and you've got a great LiDAR product that you want to continue to develop, and you're going to sell it to the automotive industry. So when you segment the automotive industry in the content of your proposal, hypothetically, we've seen proposals say, yes, we're going to sell our LiDAR to the automotive industry, and the automotive industry globally is $30 billion, and we're going to capture 5% of that in 5 years. Anybody in here think that's reasonable? Anybody in here thinks that that is really segmenting the market? There's a lot of coaching that takes place on a proposal like that. So the ability to demonstrate a viable plan to address and penetrate that market. What are the pro forma revenues that you anticipate seeing? So let's say that you anticipate a particular market, you segment that market, you see that it's going to be probably X number of millions of dollars. What are you going to be able, what do you think, based on your capabilities, your company, that you're going to be able to capture that market in the future? There's a dollar value to that. So what do you anticipate 5, 7, 10 years from now that's going to do for your revenues at your company? Tell us that. That helps us in the content of that viability of your company going forward. The ability to carry out the commercialization plan. How is your company capitalized now, and how is it going to be capitalized in the future? How are you going to pursue that commercial marketplace? Are you going to go direct sales to that commercial marketplace? Well, then capitalization is very important. Do you have the right plant, property, and equipment to pursue that? Or are you going to go a lighter route? Are you going to find somebody on the outside that has the capability and enter into a licensing agreement with them for the long-term production of that product? Cash flow and balance sheet statements, we like to see them. Again, it goes to that viability. You're not required to give that data and information to us, but we do like to see it because it better informs the evaluator in the process of conducting the evaluation. Now, we made a change, and I'm going to take a little sidestep here. For the cash flow and balance sheet statements, we actually like to see them in what is termed the Commercial Metrics Survey. Okay, the CMS is the acronym. That is a document that the SBA requires that every company file at least once a year, or where substantial changes take place in the body of the company. We look at those. The commercial evaluation team does look at the Commercial Metrics Survey. Okay, there is a box in there where you can actually drop in an Excel file, a PDF, or an HTML link to your financials. You're not required to put them in there, but it is beneficial to us because it informs us in the content of the evaluation. And by putting them in the CMS, that frees up precious space in the body of your proposal for other data and information. So the effect of the review score, the proposals have shown an improvement in commercial reviews since the commercial review feedback has been made available. So for the past several years, for a phase 2 proposal, you've been able to request feedback from us, both from the technical review and also from the commercial review. We gladly give those to you when requested for the phase 2 proposals. To further incentivize commercialization, as I mentioned before, the 5% or the 5 points. Now, in the future, and this is going to be something that we'll debate internally within the program, as the SBA and the government, and this is apolitical, the government is looking for greater commercialization success coming out of the SBIR program. They want to see a return on investment, in essence. We may increase that point level. Now, I'm going to go out on a limb here and say, we'd like your input on that also, okay? So speak up. through your center or directly to the program at headquarters if you'd like to see that 5 points increased to a higher level. So the commercial section, as I mentioned before, it's part 7. We look for 3 things. There's 3 sections to it. The commercial potential, which is that market, the market segmentation I discussed. The commercial intent, the plan, how are you going to get there? And then the commercial capability, how is it going to be executed going forward? Now again, this is all contained directly within the body of the solicitation, and these charts will also be publicly available later, so don't stress out on all the verbiage here. But this is what we look for you to put in the content of your proposal in the Section 7. The market segmentation, the proposed innovation of target customers, is it going to be to NASA, another federal agency, outside sales, and a view of the competitive landscape. You have competition. Who are they? What are the barriers to entry that particular segment of the market that you've described? Now, as I mentioned earlier, the hypothetical about the automotive industry, $30 billion, we're going to get 5% of it within 5 years. Go out and do some research. As I said in my presentation yesterday, when you write the proposal, search for papers, right, for the technical content and cite those papers. Well, here, search for market segmentation surveys. There's a lot of them that are out there. You can Google them. Get them, look at them, cite them within this section of the Part 7 of your proposal. Give us some level of confidence that that market segmentation data that you're citing within your proposal is based on publicly available market segmentation data. In other words, just don't pull something out of a hat. The commercial intent, so we want you to, the development plan, the applicable business model, as I said earlier, are you going to spin out, are you going to license, or are you going to be the original equipment manufacturer of whatever it is that you're selling to the marketplace? Again, the pro forma revenue that you're anticipating. And then look at the projections based on the proposed innovations penetration of the identified market and follow-on development, long-term, greater than 5 years. Plan to expand your proposed innovations market presence. The risk to the commercial development plan and what mitigations, if any, you can take over a period of time to lessen those risks. And what are you going to do to safeguard, and again, I mentioned this yesterday, probably the largest attribute of the SBIR program, what are you going to do to safeguard your intellectual property? That is your intangible goodwill on your balance sheet. That is your value going forward as a small business. That intellectual property that you develop with the non-invasive capital that NASA is investing in you through the SBIR program. All right, commercial capability, future capitalization plan, existing and future business relationships, in terms of partnerships, joint ventures, licensing agreements with other companies and organizations, and as applicable, the approach, the path to market, and revenues from past commercializations resulting from SBIR, STTR awards that are disclosed in your commercial metrics survey. Okay, so, and as I said yesterday, if you haven't had any commercial sales, and this is your very first proposal, you're not going to have data in there. Well, note, we're not going to hold that against you, okay? But also, if you do drop that data and information into the commercial metrics survey with your balance sheet, et cetera, we safeguard that information. It is non-disclosable. And again, though, I'll say it's voluntary for you to put that data and information in. Commercial technical assistance, very important. In accordance with the Small Business Act, Title 15 U.S. Code, Section 632, NASA will authorize the recipient of an SBIR Phase 2 to receive technical assistance services. It's up to $5,000 per proposal, and it's available after the Phase 2 award, and that amount, that $5,000, doesn't count as part of the $750,000 for the Phase 2 award, okay? But even more important and beneficial is I-Core. Bill Toscano, seated back here, is our NASA SBIR I-Core guy. Phase 1, if you're going for a Phase 1, I strongly encourage you to submit an application for I-Core, because I don't have proof of this, but my hypothesis is, as we have companies mature and grow through the Phase 1 process that have participated in I-Core, it's going to make this Section 7, this Part 7 on your Phase 2 proposals seem like a cakewalk. You'll know what to do. You'll be the best of class coming through the Phase 2 proposal, I believe, if you've participated in I-Core. Now, we don't have enough data to substantiate that, but when I do a correlation here in future Phase 2s, I suspect, as I said, my hypothesis is we're going to see a strong correlation between high commercialization scores and those companies that have been through I-Core. Post-Phase 2 opportunities, continued technology development. 3 initiatives supporting its small business partners beyond the Phase 2 award. These are the Phase 2 extended. That's where you've got a Phase 2 activity, it reaches a certain date, and you're then eligible to receive matching funds and SBIR funds. This is to further mature the technology on the TRL level and retire risk. Get to know your contracting officer representative, your core, or a JPL, your technical monitor, very well, because you have to work with them hand in glove to get that Phase 2E proposal in. The Civilian Commercialization Readiness Pilot Program, CCRPP. The window is open now. Again, Bill Toscano did a presentation on that. If you have any questions, see Bill, see me. We can help you through that CCRPP process. And then Phase 2 sequentials. So please refer to the website for eligibility, applications, deadline, matching requirements, and further information for those 3 post-Phase 2 opportunities I just discussed. Proposal advice, again, this just reiterates what the common sense that I went through yesterday. I think that the bottom bullet, you never finish writing a proposal, you just run out of time. It is so true. But the other piece on this is, as we mentioned, get to know the technical community within the subtopic that you're looking to propose against. Again, these are problem statements. We're looking for your innovative thoughts and ideas of how to help NASA solve these problems going forward. You may have a great hammer, a best-of-class hammer, but not every problem at NASA is a nail, okay? So be adaptable in how you approach your philosophy for that innovation in the body of your proposal, starting at the Phase 1 level. Okay, build those relationships with our technical community, and you'll be that much better prepared when you write your proposal. But our technical community will be that much better prepared and aware of what's going on outside the gate in the small business research community. It will help them write better content in the subtopics. So there's a symbiotic effect here. Oh, and read the solicitation carefully, and don't read it once, don't read it twice. Reread it, read it again, read it to your children before you put them to bed, read it in the morning over your cereal, and whatever the case may be. Don't take it for granted that your competition is only going to read the proposal, the solicitation once. They'll have it read many times too. And you can find the solicitation at nasa.sbir.gov. Look to previous year's solicitations to inform you on the content of those subtopics. There is no guarantee that that subtopic will be in the upcoming solicitation, but use reasonable expectations that it could be, okay? So that's it. Questions? Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so you said that the commercialization section accounts for 5 points.
Right.
This is a little bit of a general how proposals are awarded. Is it solely based on like your overall final score, or is that a
primary variable.
Right.
But it could be that you've got a technical evaluation of a 95 with a score of 4 on the commercialization for a 99, and another proposal that's got exquisite technology gets scored 95, but they only put one paragraph in for the Part 7, and the evaluators look and say, here's a participation point, so you only get a 96, and the other proposal will be ranked higher. Now, having said that, at the end of the day, as Jen just articulated, it's based on the needs of NASA for the decision for the final award criteria, well, the award itself, not the criteria, but the award itself. Okay? The subtopic, how many proposals are received in the subtopic? How rigorous has it been? And how many awards are made within the body of that subtopic? I mean, we track that very, very closely.
Different from like a DoD, like those groups might have like a certain budget for each subtopic. We look across our entire portfolio. We make the best funding decisions for what based on the highest quality proposals that come in, aren't just based on technical, aren't just based on score, but the highest proposal, the highest value proposals that come into us. It could mean that one year, one subtopic gets 10 phase ones, and one subtopic gets 1.
Right.
And we have an internal process that we use to determine that. We do that way, which we can't share anymore of. But that's, but your technical score does matter. So you don't make it to a certain point, we don't even look at you.
Right. As I say, that's the primary variable. But at the end of the day, it's the needs of NASA based for the awards. Yes, sir, you had a question?
I'm Pat McKenzie. I work with ASRC Federal Astronautics, and our company is a pretty small company. We've got my subsidiary. We've got 9 full-time people. And I've worked for Lockheed Martin. I've worked for Ball Aerospace. I've worked for bigger companies. Who would have a hard time, frankly, putting together the marketing analysis section of a Section 7 and do it really thoroughly and really well? Okay. For a 9-person company who's focusing on propulsion and advanced manufacturing, things and additive, that sort of a thing, it can be tough for us to find the right words to put into a proposal to really fill out a comprehensive marketing plan for a technology that we're working on.
Okay. And where's your company located?
Huntsville, Alabama.
Huntsville. Okay. So, all right. No, I understand.
There are options, right?
Right.
I mean, we could hire a marketing analysis company, but we have a lot of extra money to do that. Lockheed's and Boeing's and those can potentially do that. They're consulting and build a marketing plan. So since Zipper is focused on small businesses,
Right.
I'm just pointing out that to me, 5 points maybe is about right, at least in some of the early stages, relative to how you score that. Because a lot of these small companies aren't to the level yet where they're going to be having the people on board or afford, frankly, to hire a consultant and to build them a really great comprehensive marketing plan.
Absolutely agree. But the resources that are out there, so down in the Huntsville area, you go over to our friends at Marshall, you talk to Lynn Garrison and say, hey, Lynn, what economic development organization is there here in the Huntsville area, which is just like we've got here in Colorado that's helping us, just like I have in Los Angeles with the Los Angeles County Economic Development Council. They have free resources. They've got folks that can sit down, limber up the fingers, and actually dump stuff over the transom to you at no cost. So those are the resources to look for. That's not, come to us and ask the question. We'll find you the resources. Okay, but thanks for that input as far as the scoring. Sir.
The CCRPP program.
Right.
You talked at the beginning of your discussion on commercialization, how you get to 6, 7, then you're trying to get to 8, 9, and the price of getting there and getting certified, particularly through a NASA certification process, particularly if it's related to the human spaceflight program, gets pretty noticeable.
Yes.
But CCRPP is limited to an upper level of $1 million.
Right.
Right? Is there some thought given to perhaps find an investor who's willing to invest $5 million?
Yeah, so we're limited by law, actually, for how high our security reports can be. When we went to $2 million last year, it's actually maxing out the authority.
Okay.
But we just waited to see what came in, right? What were people actually proposing? $2 million is a lot to actually raise, personally. And so we learned a lot from that first phase of applications about the range of proposals that were actually coming in with matching funding. We also looked at our other post-phase 2 programs like ENX, and the possibility of sequential, and the role of sequential play, to try to look at those funding opportunities as a portfolio of funding opportunities. So if we can tweak, we have some policy discretion within tweaking those, and that's why we do like to hear from small businesses on your journeys about what you actually need, right? That this is our second tweak on CCRPP. We will study it again, right? And we continue to plan since the last pre-authorization of SBIR actually expanded the CCRPP program in 2022. Like, it's a safe bet to assume you'll see a CCRPP program for the next several years. And so there could be tweaking, right, on that program as we learn more and more about how to make kind of our own capstone investment for SBIR, our own kind of tipping point, right? We can't make $30 million awards like tipping point can.
Yeah, the challenge is, as Jen just mentioned, and I'll just articulate it, there's only so much in the pool. And we take the pool down here, we take the pool down here, and we're left with, a little residual, and that's CCRPP. Yeah, but again, that cost curve to mature the technology and retire the risk to get flight-ready hardware is just, it's insane. You know what?
What it is, right? If you're kind of a new small business and you haven't been through government programs before, you may be a little bit clueless as to what it's going to take financially to get yourself certified.
Right. But that's part of the beauty of our definition of commercialization. If you get embedded like a tick in a hound dog, and you get in good with that program manager and the program at NASA, you'll get that phase 3 funding. But we want to make sure that you're going to be viable in the long term so that when you do get that phase 3 funding, you'll be able to eventually deliver that flight-ready hardware. Yes?
Sorry, I came in a little bit late, and I was just wondering if that 5% rating is the same for the phase 1 proposals.
No, sir. No, sir. It's purely cursory and advisory in the content. The technical reviewers are doing the whole evaluation in the phase 1 proposals. Phase 2 proposals, we bifurcate. We have the technical reviewers who have up to the 95 points that they can award, and then the commercial peer review team, another acronym, we call it the CPERT, the commercial peer review team that can give the 5 points for the phase 2s. Then also, we provide a commercial peer review for the CCRPPs.
Thank you.
Anything, sir?
Sir, I'm very interested in the ICOP program, and I know it's the transition from phase 1 to phase 2.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is when we submitted the phase 1 proposal earlier this year, we failed to do, and now we were awarded that STTR phase 1. So I was wondering if there's any way we can.
So Bill Siscano is the man here.
So initially when we submitted the phase 1 proposal, we failed to opt in the ICOP program.
Because opt-in?
Yeah, we didn't opt in.
You're not alone. There were several that didn't opt in, and I tried, because you could have had an opportunity to submit an ICOP proposal. This year, we're probably a little more flexible, but I'm encouraging companies, what do you lose for not saying yes to opt in? Because at least you've got a placeholder so that when it comes time, if you are selected for an STR phase 1 award, then you can consider your decision again, and it's only a 5-page proposal for ICOR. And the first 3 pages are the meat, and the last 2 pages are resumes. So it doesn't take a lot of work to put together.
Yeah, we're looking to build into our solicitation this upcoming year more flexibility and possibly allow, last year the solicitation said you must opt in. There's word must in there, which you didn't. We can relax that. I had this question from a bunch of companies too. Oh, can I do ICOR now? No, man, you didn't fill out the form. No, but that's a dumb answer. Like, we shouldn't say you didn't fill out the form. That makes, if someone didn't understand it, they needed to just check yes on the form. So we're trying to make it more flexible for this upcoming cycle, not leave it with something else.
So, Bill, thank you for being here. Now, hey, everything I just went through, and I kept saying SBIR, I just want to also re-emphasize this is also applicable to STTRs, okay? So the phase 2 STTRs also go through a commercial peer review. So it's just as important. but the onus is not on the research institution that you're teamed with. The onus for that plan is on the company, because the company is going to be the organization that receives the contractual vehicle, not the research institution. Okay, so I just want to reiterate that it's also applicable to the STTR program for the Part 7 in the proposals. Any other questions?
How do we get our commercial review? I don't remember seeing that as an option.
So that is distributed as part of your phase, so on debriefs.
Right.
Okay, so for phase 1, if you apply to phase 1, you automatically get a debrief. Everybody automatically gets a debrief. You're going to get your technical reviews that list your strengths and weaknesses according to the evaluation factors. You don't get reviewer names, you don't get scores, you just get your strengths and weakness comments from technical reviewers, which means sometimes you'll get various technical reviews that have different opinions on your proposal, right? Sometimes you'll get all of them that say, this is the most amazing technology ever, this is great, but yet you didn't get the award, and you're like, what the heck, man? And the answer is, we got a lot of really good, proposals, but you can use those reviews also to try to generate up other business, so like you're saying, NASA thinks this is a really good idea, right? In phase 2, you have to request a debrief.
Right.
So there's actually a process that's outlined in the solicitation, where, because that's a longer debrief that's actually given to you by your mission director liaison for that particular, or whatever particular proposal channel that came in. So phase 2 companies have a 90-day window. I think it's 60 or 90 days.
It's 90 days, because I did all the SMD ones year after year.
The CTTLs and the MDLs do it for phase 2.
Right.
You have to request it, and it's then with your phase 2 debrief that you get the commercial.
When you submit the proposal?
No, when we post the announcement of selections, you have 90, look at the solicitation, I think you said it's
90, I believe it's 90.
You have 90 days to request from the program to prepare a debrief, and we'll do that as a phone debrief, to talk you through debrief. That's when you get the commercial peer review information for phase 2.
You'll get
It's a
it.
slightly different process. Phase 1, everybody gets it automatically. Phase 2, you have to request it.
Right. Phase 2, you have to request it. And initially, what you'll get is an email from the program. And it comes from our program management office, and it has the verbiage of the technical review, the comments from the reviewers, and also the commercial peer review. They're written.
So we will, and we get this question too.
Yeah.
I think it's very valuable for anybody to get the feedback. For phase 1, I believe we give the feedback to everybody.
Automatic, right.
For phase 2, you can, I don't see a reason why we wouldn't, if you requested it, if you want, to still give you your feedback on your phase 2 evaluation if you requested it, but we give you a requesting window is the piece with the phase 2. So you have 90 days to request it. And if that came to me as a policy decision, can we give these people their degree for their commercial review? I'd say absolutely yes. They're asking for feedback. But people don't usually ask for it.
Okay, Jen, we have witnesses. You've said that. So when the question comes up with our friends at PMO, absolutely. Very much in agreement. Very much in agreement. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, thank you all very much. My time has expired. Any questions? Please send me an email. You'll know where to find me. All right? Good luck.
And with that said, we're going to take a 15-minute break, and everyone should convene in the next room for the Innovation Square. Thank you.